Hello and welcome back to that Eurovision site. Hello, I'm Kittens, and today we're going to be discussing the 63rd edition of Festivali Këngës, aka the Albanian selection for Eurovision. With me, I have, say hi everybody, hi Molly,
Hello, hello.
and hi Shiloh.
Hi.
So, let's get right into it. We had 4 lovely nights of Albanian music between the 19th and the 22nd of December. Uh, we have just one winner this year, for which ended up being, oops, spoilers, Shkodra Elektronike, which I will never learn to say correctly at this point, with Zjerm. And they will represent Albania at Eurovision this year. So, first of all, let's talk about what we thought of the competition as a whole. So, the 4 nights, the presenters, the staging, the shenanigans, etc., etc. Shiloh.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, first and foremost, those 10-minute commercial breaks were really they were really quite hefty. And I think they perhaps could have been shorter. I mean, the night I was live tweeting, I appreciated the break to like go and refill my water or whatever, but it was a lot. It was a lot of waiting around. So that was real that's really the main observation I have about the show. But secondly, I mean overall I only watched one of the nights live, but it was a mostly enjoyable experience for the most part. I mean, with Albania, I think the thing that happens sometimes is this. You get sort of lower quality songs or less mass marketable songs, but the vocal performances of almost all of them are really on another level. And that's something that Albania really values year after year after year. And so there's always something to enjoy when watching the show because somebody is going to blow it out of the park vocally.
Even if
Um,
you like thought it was a relatively kind of
right.
naff song on the recording.
hmm And there were definitely some songs that when I watched them live sort of immediately elevated my opinion of them.
Yep. What about you, Molly? What did you think of your first Festivali Congress
It
as
was
well?
really it was really good. I didn't have the same problem with the ads because I was rewatching the day after some of them, so I was kind of able to skip through. But I think there was a lot of really good songs. I think the final selection was really good, apart from a couple of them that sneaked through. I will not mention, but the majority of the final selection of artists were really good, a good amount, a good sort of mix of genres in a way, I can overall say. I think they did a really good job, and I think when it comes to am I all right mentioning if it comes to who won kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've already mentioned who won, so
When it comes to who won or the top two, it was really hard. They are both very good, but for very different reasons, and I think I can understand. But at the beginning, I was like, "Oh, Carnival's so cool!" Like, "Oh my goodness, it should have won." But then I was like, "Actually, if you think about it, both are valid, but in different ways, and both can work in the Eurovision. One is more of a risk than the other, but I think they could both if either one won, both could potentially do very well with the right staging."
yeah, I think this was it was a stronger year than we've had in the past. So I think like in the past there has been a lot kind of less focus on like having a good song mix, and there has been a lot of a bit of a all over the place, and just I don't know what they were thinking, but I'm sure it was very representative of the Albanian music scene or something. I don't know, but it wasn't a good watch. Whereas this year felt like a much smoother watch. Like we had some technical problems. The first night was very up and down. There were a lot of mic problems, like people not having the right mic and their mic not being on and stuff like that. But to be fair to them, they did pull it out the bag by the time it got to the final, and we weren't having those issues of people standing on stage without a mic turned on and stuff like that, which was a much better situation to be in. So hopefully, that is something that they have learned for future editions, to maybe a few more rehearsals for the final night, maybe. Going on to the songs, which songs maybe surprised you one way or another? Which songs did you think maybe just didn't deliver quite as much as you were expecting? Molly, you're grinning. You have an answer for this, don't you?
I already know two that I'm like, why? One of the I can't remember the name of the person that did one of them, but I know the song of the other one, Anti-Hero. I do not know how, but it somehow got in there. It was okay. I think it's very like out there, like pop rock, which I don't mind, but I don't know, like it's just all over the place vocally. I just wasn't fully there for it. Like a little bit, I was like, okay, I can jive a little bit, but I think the one that got so good, like from the last one, was Carnival. And I think I remember Jet, some of the ballads were really good as well. Jet's one was quite nice as well. I enjoyed that one. There were just overall just some really nice set of ballads to go for this time, which were quite nice. I think they all had a beautiful mix of like styles and sort of like ways of singing that I really enjoyed. And more contemporary compared to the first, to the some of the ones in the semis.
See, I really struggled with Jal by Jet. He seemed like he was pushing his voice like super, super hard. And when you get to that kind of point where you are pushing your voice that hard, I felt like my vocal cords were gonna like strain themselves, because I just was watching this guy sitting there going, you are pushing yourself so hard. I get it. You want to do well, but you are going too far. And I just sat there and went, I really hope this guy has honey and lemon in spades, like in the
Yeah,
morning, because it was just so like, I mean, yes, he's emotional, and yes, obviously you're proud to like be on that stage and doing that kind of thing, but I just felt like my throat was like going like, I think it lost a little bit of the richness from the recorded version, if I'm honest. So I was a bit disappointed with that one, but I kind of really felt for him. Because I think he's a relatively young performer. Like he's
yeah,
not been in the music industry too long, and I mean, maybe he was fine. Maybe I'm over egging it, but I definitely felt that kind of like, oh, from it.
yeah.
What about you, Shiloh? Any came up? Any went down?
Yeah, so I'm gonna start with the negative because I think it's gonna be a really controversial thing I'm about to say, and I want to end on a positive. Um, I Carnival was not for me. Um, I had not listened to it before seeing it live. I had listened to like the 10 songs I was supposed to react to, and I that was it because I got a really bad batch of songs and I was like,
You
I'm not
did.
listening to any more.
You really did.
Um
Apart from one,
apart from one, yeah, it's true. Um so I hadn't listened to it. I knew that it was the fan favorite. I knew that it had been hyped, and I watched it and I was like, this is such a nothing burger. Does that make sense at all? Like it
the thing
it
is,
just yeah.
like, I can 100% agree with this because I was so disappointed in the performance. The performance wh- I mean, vocally she was fine, but the performance, she just didn't seem sure of herself.
It
I, she seemed, I don't know, possibly under rehearsed. I don't really know. Like she looked like she was shaking and not enjoying herself. And I don't know whether that was under rehearsed or nerves. And I doubt with somebody like her that it's nerves.
Yeah, and that can come with time, like if that went to Eurovision, like she would obviously have time to iron out the kinks in that. But I think really the place where I struggled was that this is just not what you see at FIK. That's not that's what people I'm gonna struggle to articulate this myself, but I think one of the criticisms that people online have had of Carnival was that it didn't really feel Albanian, which is a thing that, I mean, say what you want about the way Albania revamps their songs every year, but the songs that come out of FIK initially every year really feel like culturally true to source. And Carnival really didn't. It's, I think, very rare that you watch FIK and watch such an ultra polished photocopy dance routine like that.
yeah, it
Um,
sorry.
no, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it felt very much like even when I watched it, I'm like, this is more made for like Eurovision and to win and to go straight in than it is for FIC and Albania. And I think this is what my theory, where my theory from the pre-discussion, feel free to check out that one, um, basically rolled into how I felt like people were going to vote for something that felt more to their culture. Then I felt like that's where I kind of felt that Carnival was going to fall behind. And I think I was right on a little bit of that feeling, in a sense that Carnival felt so commercial that it alienated, it pushed out a lot of people that wanted that big Albanian culture represented within it. So it's very commercially big, but it's not like it may not have that collective sort of. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, it felt commercial in a very specific way,
Mm,
which is that it was very sure of itself to a level that felt almost conceited. Like, well, I'm going to go to Eurovision. This is a
yeah.
Eurovision song. This doesn't need to be an FIK song. This is a
Mm.
Eurovision song. And then it didn't go to Eurovision because that fell flat with people, a lot of people. I mean, we have the voting numbers now for this, right? Didn't something like 70% of the Albanian public vote for Zjerm?
It
Is that right?
so
It was some
the
stupid big number.
SMS, yeah, 42 points. No, yeah, 42 points went to Zjerm from the SMS, 42 points went to Carnival from the online diaspora voting.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Which says a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I do think like I there is absolutely something you're so spot on with there. Like I I personally think if there was more to the performance, and I don't necessarily mean more bells and whistles, like throwing everything at it and seeing what sticks
I
versus actually spending the time to look and feel comfortable on stage. I would rather she was alone on stage and did absolutely like nothing with the dancers and the coming down from the ceiling and whatever, but felt and
yeah.
appeared confident as a singer. Um, and the thing is, I'm sure she is confident. Like she has
Yeah.
an established she's been doing this for some time. So I was expecting on the final night for it to be like to go from here to like here, and then it just didn't. And I was like, oh, this is kind of disappointing.
Yeah, it felt like they were throwing so much at the wall with Carnival. It's like, okay, she's confident. I'd like a little bit of choreo. That's cool. I would have minded just her, maybe a couple of dancers and a bit of the choreo. But then she stood on the dancers. Then we had the podium. Then we had her falling. And it's like, let's throw everything at the wall.
I mean, I've mentioned this before in things, and I used to call this the take one thing off before you leave the house, but I'm gonna call this, like I did in the Montenegro post one, the Luna syndrome. as in basically there is no need for you to be lying on a lying on a horse on the floor while two guys dressed as knights fight on giant platforms. Focus on the delivery
Mm,
of the song. Everything else comes second.
yeah.
Because if you can't get that first bit right, everything else goes up the wall.
Mm.
I mean,
Mhm.
sorry, you wanted to talk about something more positively, Shiloh. I've
Yes.
just
So a song
just
that
like
so
wiped that.
so before the fans completely cancel me, one song that I thought did really well live, where I wasn't expecting it to, was Lutam by Vesa Smolica. I thought that the vocal delivery on that was really solid, and I, especially in the final, I was sort of worried about her in the semifinal. It sounded like she was straining, like you were talking about with the other song. I was sort of worried about her voice, but I think she sort of she got it together, and I think just seeing it live, I think it was a song that was more meant to be performed live, and I think that maybe part of the reason why I didn't like it so much in studio was because of like the mixing, or because I couldn't really see her face, or things like that. Um, and so that was a positive where I was like, oh, okay, this is good actually, and I've had it stuck in my head for the several days since.
It is really catchy. And
Hmm.
you know, I know we all joke about the Albanian school of women who can belt that all Albanians get enrolled in at the age of 14. But my gosh, that was impressive. I was like, oh my days. She can really go for it. I mean, on a similar note, I was really impressed by Miegel by Alice. I just watched that performance. I was like, okay, I don't really like this song that much, but I like you as a performer. You have lots of charisma on stage and you can deliver something with drama and aplomb. And I was like, you know what? I was really glad that that came in third. I was like, you know what? You deserve that one. I enjoyed that, you know. I think he would definitely ended up being a standout for me by the end of it, even though I'm never going to be putting the song on a playlist. So, yeah. Well, we should probably talk about the winner. The winning song, I'm going to say this wrong so many times. Shkodra Elektronike, is that right? Does that sound right?
I'm not sure.
I don't know
I
enough
think
about
so.
Albanian to dispute it.
Yeah, we need Rory in here. With Zjerm was the eventual winner. It was right down to the wire on this act. It was, very close in the end. Um, what do we think? What do we think of the winner? What do we think of how it's going to do at Eurovision?
So this was
Uh,
the one song in my batch of reactions that was not that did not totally bore me to tears. Uh, which is a mean thing to say about the other songs, including some that we've discussed in this video already. So sorry. But in studio, this one impressed me the most out of the ones that I listened to. And I think it's a good winner for a couple of reasons. First of all, like that we've already talked about, it feels very authentically Albanian. Um, Second of all, I don't know how they could revamp this if they wanted to. I mean, first of all, just going on the vibes of the performers, which I really don't know too much about, like I have a hard time seeing them agreeing to that, I guess. I mean, I could be proven wrong. I don't know. But on the other hand, the song is just so strange. And I feel like it would be hard to cut that down into something that is bland and mass marketable, which is what you often see Albania do. I think it would be really difficult. Are there some edges that need polishing with the song? Yeah, there's some weird transitions, and I think that there are elements to the physical performance that could be improved upon. But I think there's not going to be too much of taking apart and putting back together the song, which I think is really, really, really a positive and can only mean good things for Albania. Because when they don't revamp their songs or only revamp them a little, they consistently get better results than
Yeah,
they do when they defang them. And you would think that they would have learned by now, and they
to
don't.
just don't.
Yeah, and so this year I am hopeful that they will leave it mostly alone, and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to seeing. I hope they do maybe tiny, 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 minuscule changes if they have to. I don't really want them to do many changes apart from some performance elements, because I think the performance does need a little bit more to it when it comes to Eurovision,
It's
because
a little awkward.
yeah, this is similar situation that Sanremo kind of has, where they have to adapt it to a Eurovision staging and a Eurovision sense. Not, I don't mean like revamping the entire song. I'm meaning like adding some bits. They don't have to do too much, but adding some theatrical elements maybe, make it a bit dramatic, Um, I absolutely love the song. It took me a couple of bits to listen to, and then I was really on it. It's weird, it's creative, it's like out there. It's a risk, but I feel like it done well, it could be a very good risk. And sometimes I do like songs that don't go in. I'm kind of glad Carnival didn't win because I like songs that go into Eurovision with that we just want to show our culture and through the music and things like that, and not dragging themselves to the more marketable side of things. That's not bad if you want to go marketable, commercial. However, I do like seeing some songs that actually take that culture of their country, like Greece, Marina Satti this year did. So having that balance, and I'm glad that Albania have chosen that the more cultural path this year. And I mean for
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah, I mean, we were gonna get several songs like Carnival, but I don't think there's gonna be another song this year that sounds like
Yeah.
Zjerm, you know?
Yeah, like a lot of people have said, there's a lot of countries that could send a carnival. There's not a lot of countries that could
Yeah.
send a Sherm. And, I think that, we have here some something that is coming out of here that is, for me, in the tradition of stuff more like Go A.
Yeah.
I've obviously heard a lot of people saying like Constructor as well, but I don't
Yeah.
feel like it's that kind of
I was
vibe. I
seeing
think
Go
I
as
can see where
people
they're
well.
coming from, but
I
it's
can
not a
see
comparison I would make myself.
yeah, I don't think I would make that kind of comparison myself because it's not really it's not really performance art in the way that Constructor is performance art. It is just a kind of folky song with electronica elements that has those things. Like I would say definitely that there needs to be for me there needs to be some work on the performance. I think she does brilliantly and he doesn't have the drama that she has. So either one of them needs to come down or the other one needs to go up to balance
Yeah.
it. Because it feels a little bit like somebody, two different things happening at the same time, a little bit for me. I'd really like him to up the drama because I think
Yeah.
he can have that, you know, if when you see him do like the second verse, I want to say,
Mm.
he's clearly got that kind of dramatic voice and stuff. So he can do it. It's just I think at the start with them just going like on a drum pad, I need this not to be electric fields from last year,
Yeah.
is the one thing I've said. I don't want this to be one glowing human and somebody who is behind a keyboard smiling, right?
Yeah.
I don't want it to be that. They are both part of this, they are equally part of this collaboration, and they should both be up there, in my humble opinion. Now, it may be that there is a reason that things are the way they are. Um, I the drum kit being on a flattened down music stand
Yeah, no,
with
that was.
some bits of like tinsel hanging off it. I was sitting there
Did they try to make
going,
that Christmassy?
I don't really know, but like the difference between the budget for that and the budget for Carnival was very stark to me. And I was like, you could have at least got like an IKEA table or some, something a little bit more, considering you were in this grand, place with all the grand orchestra and all that kind of stuff, that I was like, oh, surely there's like something a little bit more that you can get out of this. But, it is what it is. I think the joy of this song is that with what they brought, with the kind of simpleness of the staging and of the song, they've managed to create something that is, very iconic, very, it sounds good, it feels good. And I think, unlike a lot of Albanian songs, you don't really need to know the lyrics to enjoy it. It just sounds good straight off. It just sounds good in your ears. It's very, like, cohesive as a song. It just makes a lot of sense. Um, Whereas in the past, I've been searching for meaning in stuff because the song hasn't been as interesting. This just feels good.
Yeah.
Um, so, they have been talking about they might add a third person or something
Oh
like
no,
that. And I'm like,
no.
does it need a
I
third
don't think it
person?
does need that. No.
I don't know if that was rumor or whether that was just like it is what it is, but we'll see, we'll see. But I was pleasantly surprised to see them win.
I think
I
adding a third person would throw off that counterbalance, like you said, quite a lot, I feel.
There's
I
it
mean,
could work or it could really not work, and
Yeah.
I don't think that's a risk.
Mm,
I'm not sure if that's a risk they should be taking. I think that they
yeah.
should like focus on polishing what they already have locked
Mm,
in.
yeah, very much. Like, I think they've got something good here. They just need to refine the edges, not do something huge with it. Um, and yeah, we'll see how they do. I feel like it's still very early in the Eurovision game. This is what, our second
Second
song?
song,
yeah,
yeah.
second.
So it's very hard to tell whether this is going to be, right up there. But I think the fact that it's captured a lot of like fans, hearts. This is a song that has kind of become quite big in the fandom. I think it definitely has a lot of potential. Um, just depends what happens with it, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, honestly,
Oh,
I think Eurovision level camera work is going to do a lot
Mm.
because one of the things that felt the most awkward to me about the live performance is just the camera angles and the weird, awkward zooming and unzooming, especially on the guy as he was doing the spoken section. And I just think that, like, with the RTSH, pardon, with their budget fully and comprehensively behind the one song and with like greater technical capabilities that come with the Eurovision stage, I think that the camera work issues will be fixed. And this isn't a problem I typically have with Albania, is the camera work. There are some countries where I'm like, oh my God, you guys need to take some classes or something because it's bad every year. Albania, not so.
Mm.
So hopefully once there are some more experienced people in control and there's some larger technical capacity, some of that will go away.
Yeah, I think, I don't think you could, you could genuinely in kind of do relatively little with this. I mean, if you think about, say Goa's staging, for example, very simple staging. And I think something of that ilk, quite simple staging that isn't massive. I don't think you need to bring like something huge to the stage because I don't know how much it will lend to the song. But
Yeah,
I
like
do
time your
think,
LEDs with the synth stuff and call it a day.
yeah, like I think there's a lot you could do and keep it relatively simple. Um, I just think I'm kind of hoping that they do keep it relatively simple on this one and just up the impact of the performers themselves, possibly. Any final thoughts? Anything more before we wrap up? I mean, I just want to mention that it was actually quite nice to just have one winner this year. That was quite
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Um, none of this faffing about with two winners and stuff. Um, and I think it was fun to have that diaspora vote. I voted. I put my vote in. I kind of slightly regret my vote now, but that's fine. But I voted, and I think it was a nice little thing to do. The actual like vote reveal sequence was a little bit painful when I think, did they forget one of the jurors or something like that? We thought we'd had all the jurors, and then they went back and did another juror, and we were like, um, but I think overall it was a much less painful experience than the 2023 edition, in my humble opinion.
I I think which a lot of these songs, if they were done in 2023, and don't shoot me for this opinion, may have knocked Titan out at the corner. I feel quite a lot of these may have.
Yeah, I feel like 2023 wasn't a greatly strong year in terms of songs. So,
Mm,
like we were saying in the pre-discussion, I think it is a much stronger list of songs. Um, and I do appreciate that they have got to that point. So I'm just hoping that basically that Albania keep up the good work, and that they don't mess around with Zjerm too much. And don't end up with a Luna situation, bringing it back
yeah.
to it. And we don't end up with the Luna situation for Zjerm. Um, yeah. Right, we'll wrap it up there then. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We are that Eurovision site. We are here on YouTube. So subscribe, like this video, etc. And we are also on all your social media everywhere. So that Euro site on everything. Um, Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, Tumblr. I've definitely forgotten one. Threads,
TikTok.
TikTok,
TikTok.
yeah. And obviously that Eurovision podcast as well, where we are talking about past editions. And you can also hear all our interviews from this year on that Eurovision podcast on your podcast service of choice. All that remains for me to say is thank you very much to Molly and to Shiloh for joining me, and we will see you again on the next one.
Bye. Thanks for
Bye.
Bye.
watching.